Shalom, Shalom, my name is Sophie Lavender and this is my first in hopefully what will be an extensive series of videos raising awareness and acceptance of autism, also known as Aspergers syndrome. To start off this series, I really want to go into explaining what autism is and what some of the kind of most popular traits within the spectrum are, so that you are aware of how autism is like for us, and also to see if you could be autistic. Now, there's going to be a lot of information to digest. You know, if we're going to talk about autism, we've got to do it right. So to kind of make it easier to digest, I have split this video up in smaller chunks. And these smaller chunks will help create a bigger picture of what it's like to be autistic. And if you are finding yourself relating a lot to what's spoken about in today's video, you can find in the description below links to useful websites to help you learn even further. But a quick disclaimer, please be careful with self-diagnosing. By all means, please do your research. But if you are seriously concerned about your mental health, please speak to a professional. And I understand it's difficult at the moment to get that help, especially when so many vital mental health services are being cut, but it is important. So, what are the main symptoms of autism, the key traits, and what defines somebody as autistic? To start off, I think I'm going to start off with the most obvious one, which is struggling to understand certain rules, like invisible rules in society. And that also leads you to struggle to make friends because you're not seeing these invisible cues. And because of that, you might find yourself masking to fit in. And the biggest one, which affects me the most, is sensory issues. Having issues with certain textures, loud sound, loud lights, strobe lights make me really sick. Certain issues with food as well is also a big one. A lot of autistic people find that they thrive when they have a set routine, and once they are in a routine, they like to stick to it. But another key part of autism is having really intense anxiety around changes and adapting to changes. As I'm filming this, we're right in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, and I know for me personally it has been a huge struggle to adapt to what's going on now, because my routine and what I like to do has changed massively. Autistic people have a really logical way of thinking, and this can correlate to having a high IQ score because the IQ tests are based on logical thinking and your ability to solve puzzles. Autistic people also have really intense interests, which could lead us to becoming kind of like experts in a particular subject. Like I'm really into psychology, and I'm really into photography, and I've made that a huge part of my life, and I'm also really into makeup. Autistic people can also be highly creative and have a huge imagination, can spark some really innovative, out-of-the-box ideas. Struggles with eye contact. That's a thing that I do struggle with, and you may notice whilst I'm vlogging, I glance over at other things because I'm like, hey, let's look at this. But I also find it difficult to look in people's eyes because it makes me feel anxious. I don't know why. But also when I'm having a conversation, I do find it easier when my eyes are going on a little adventure around the room. The eyes are doing one thing, so the brain can focus on the other thing. Repetitive behaviours, aka stimming. And this is a very popular one as well. Now, a lot of autistic people hide their stims. They hide stimming because they're worried about how other people will perceive that. But one really positive thing that I have noticed online is that a lot of autistic people are now like, stuff that. We're gonna flap, we're gonna wiggle, we're gonna shake, we're gonna do things, and we're gonna vocally stimming. That's the thing. I think it's called echolalia. I might not have pronounced that right, so don't hate me for that. And yeah, another part of stimming as well, and echolalia, could be repeating words or phrases. Like me and my brother watched a meme video on YouTube, and there was this meme that went Cheeto. That was it. It was literally just the sound of somebody going Cheeto. And I think for like the next 2 weeks, me and my brother just kept randomly going Cheeto, 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 Cheeto around the house. So that is definitely a thing that happened. And I think the biggest autism trait, especially one that myself and a lot of my friends struggle with, is expressing our needs, expressing what we need. And that leads to us putting ourselves last, putting other things first, other people first. But also when we struggle to express what we need, those needs get neglected. So we end up in a spiral of neglecting our self-care, neglecting things that could help us. And I think the biggest part of that is that the way we express ourselves in society as a whole is verbally, and verbal communication is definitely a struggle for some autistic people. I know when my anxiety's bad, I really struggle with verbal communication, but I think there's a social anxiety element that also goes into that. Like, I feel anxiety expressing what I need because I feel like I am therefore being a massive burden towards the person that could possibly help me. So now we're going to look at the NHS website and see what the NHS has to say about autism. So the NHS says, common signs of autism in adults include finding it hard to understand what others are thinking and feeling. Yep. Getting anxious about social situations. Yep. Finding it hard to make friends or preferring to be on your own. I find the making the friends part hard, but I find that when I do have somebody that I consider a friend, it's easy then. Because I relate, because 9 times out of 10 that person understands because they also are struggling with their mental health. I feel like there's like a connection already, and then that takes a lot of the anxiety away. Seeming blunt, rude, or not interested in others without meaning to. God, I can't imagine how many times I have been accidentally rude, arrogant, or inconsiderate and just been completely oblivious to how that comes across, like just unknowing. I think throughout my life I have probably annoyed quite a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people with my behaviour, but not fully like understood that isn't a thing. So that is something that for me personally I try check on, like how is my tone of voice during this conversation, how kind of interested in the conversation do I look, because I may feel interested but I may not look interested, and that is a key thing there. Finding it hard to say how you feel. Yes and no. Sometimes I do find it difficult to express myself, but sometimes I overshare, and I overshare a lot. And sometimes I don't share out of anxiety of what that person will think of me after I've shared the thing, even if the thing is just really, at the end of the day, not weird at all and completely normal. Taking things literally. For example, you may not understand sarcasm or phrases like break a leg. As a kid, yes, I took things literally, but then as I got older, I would say when I reached about 12 years old, I started to understand a bit more about, you know, phrases and metaphors and how they work. I started to really learn to think for myself about things, and then that became really strong. Like, I didn't believe anything unless I'd researched it first. Now, as an adult, sarcasm in person, I understand. Because sarcasm is portrayed in your body language and your tone of voice. Sarcasm on the internet, I'm lost. I am so lost. Like, somebody can message me a bit of sarcasm, but unless they use emojis, I have no idea if they've been sincere or not. Having the same routine every day and getting very anxious if it changes. Yes, for some people. Now we have to remember a big part of autism, the big picture, is that it's a spectrum. Everybody is different. So you may not have everything mentioned so far, but you may have a few. And even if you do have most of things or everything, some things may be more of a difficult than other things. Some traits may be stronger than others. Continuing on with what the NHS say, they say you may also have other signs, like not understanding social rules, such as talking over people. Yeah, that is an issue. I am forever interrupting people. It is a huge problem. It makes me a huge pain in the backside. I am so sorry to anybody that I have interrupted. As soon as the thought comes in here, it comes out here. There's no wall, there's no like, stop. It's like, right out. And also sometimes I struggle to know when it's my turn in a conversation. That's the thing that I deal with. Knowing whether somebody has paused to take a breath or paused to hear what I have to say. Avoiding eye contact, getting too close to other people, or getting very upset if someone touches or gets close to you. So this is an either or situation here. I do like to kind of have space. Room for Jesus, as they say. They're gonna leave the room for the Spirit there. Yeah, and I used to not be a massive fan of getting hugs, because my body is my space. It's my zone. A bit like the meme where this is my no-no square, do not touch it or you will die. But like, if I'm friends with someone, if I've established a friendship with someone, then hugs are fine. Hug away, pounce on me, cuddle me, snuggle me, I don't care. Now I've moved the camera slightly because there is a lot of information to read here that I really want to get out there. So we're going to start this off with talking about the habits of autism. You may dress more comfortable because tight-fitting clothes or certain fabrics irritate you, and comfy clothes are just way more practical. They seem more practical, and that is totally a sensory issue thing. You may find that you are eccentric or youthful or even alternative in how you dress and present yourself. And that is because as autistic people, we are less likely to conform to fashion trends and what's currently popular in mainstream fashion and pop culture. Due to having to mask in order to fit in out of fear of being rejected by your peers, you may kind of feel a bit like a chameleon who can slightly change to adapt the surroundings you're in and the people you're hanging out with. You might possibly be really into sci-fi, fantasy or cartoons, such as my guilty pleasure, The Adventures of Darwin and Gumball. Yes. Just because they're more interesting, they appeal to the eccentric side of our personality. You may also feel calmer and quieter in environments such as your own room, the garden, or if you're in town, maybe there's a particular cafe that's usually quieter than the others. You also may like the quiet environment of a library, a museum, or somewhere out in nature. You may also have been accused of being a fussy eater when in actual fact you're not fussy, you're just dealing with sensory issues caused by food, which means you feel that you can only eat certain foods known as safe foods, and that is a topic I will be covering in a future video. Now we move on to interests and education. As a child, you may have either been in like a group for kids who needed extra help, or if you had a lot of academic success, you may have been put in a group for gifted and talented kids, or maybe even both. For some reason I was in both. I was in a group for kids that needed to learn how to socialize, and a group of kids who were gifted, so therefore needed extra homework, and I hated that so much. As a kid, you may have also been shy and sensitive to the world around you, almost like you're a cactus and everything else is made of balloons. You may have been drawn to music or other creative projects such as drawing, other various art forms and photography, and this might be because you find it easier to express yourself visually. On the flip side, you may have had some really strong academic interests that you really thrived in, such as interests in psychology, chemistry and computer science, and history. I love history. And when it comes to skills, you may have a lot of skills that were self-taught because you find it easier to learn in your own time, at your own pace, and in your own way. But despite your many talents and all the cool things we can do, you find it difficult to get work or stay in work because the environment is stressful. Having to deal with other people is anxiety inducing, and also because with having autism you can struggle with this thing called executive function, which is the thought process between thinking of doing the thing and actually doing the thing, which I will definitely cover in a later video as that is so important. Going back to the art stuff, we are usually very visual people in terms of how we learn, and so we prefer to use visual imagery to describe what we are thinking, and also we like to use imagery when it comes to planning things. Now this isn't the case for everybody. Some people are completely the opposite. However, in my experience of going to autism support groups and meeting other autistic people, I would say 9 times out of 10 those other autistic people loved visually expressing themselves and visually taking in information. Emotional aspects. We also tend to have more anxiety than the average person due to all the different things going on in our environment, and due to possibly not quite getting what's going on around us. And because of that, it does make us more vulnerable. It is definitely something to watch out for. You also, and like I said, this is a key part of autism, have super senses. Lights are far brighter, sounds are much louder, smells are much stronger, things feel more thingy. I don't know how to describe it. Everything is just cranked up to 11, and that can cause us to be overwhelmed. So when we are overwhelmed by the environment, it results in us being more stressed, agitated, irritable. It also adds to some confusion, and when all of these things pile up, it causes a shutdown, and shutdowns are often mistaken for tantrums, but believe me, they are not tantrums, but it is where we have just clocked out with what's happening. And when we are overloaded, it can cause us to come across as moody, stroppy and visibly upset. I know in the past when I've been overwhelmed, I felt like crying because I've been like, wah! Like the kettle has boiled at that point. But also when we're happy, we have the urge to stim, like flapping, singing, jumping and bopping around. Going back to one thing I mentioned earlier, the whole struggling sometimes to understand if someone is being sarcastic or sincere, and that can also add to confusion, and the confusion then adds to the pile of things that can cause us to feel overwhelmed. Social aspect. Do you often find that people accuse you of being one-sided in a conversation or one-sided in any social aspect or even friendship? This is because with being autistic, you can struggle to reach out, struggle to initiate conversation, and then struggle to what to say to keep the conversation going. And this is another part of social anxiety, and the social anxiety that can come with autism is that you struggle with going out to events because it feels overwhelming. And also you avoid events and you avoid going out because you don't like masking. I hate masking. I spent a whole year in 2018 masking the whole time, and in 2019 what happened? My brain went poop because it was really difficult to keep up, and to neglect your needs and who you are for that long was not good. It was very unhealthy. I do not recommend that at all. And also you avoid a lot of social stuff because you just struggle with socializing, and you know what, that's not a problem. That's completely fine, and you will find people who you can be comfortable around, who you don't feel like you have to mask, where you can just be your true authentic self and not worry about being judged. Those people are out there, and you will find them. You will find them. So with autism, you may find that you don't like going out as much because of various things we've just mentioned. You do go out. You prefer to be accompanied by a friend, a partner, or a family member, or meet somebody you know at the other end. And that is a big thing for me. And because of all this, sometimes all of these things does add to the worry of, are we coming across as cold or selfish? Is that what people think of us? But be assured that there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Like I said earlier, there is nothing wrong with you. One day there will be more people out there that understand than don't understand. And the last thing about a social aspect is that you may be a big animal lover. You may love being around your pets. You may love going horse riding, visiting zoos, sanctuaries, and being around animals because you feel like animals don't judge you. Animals don't pick on you. You can be yourself around your pets. You can just chill out and lounge and have the dog with you. And animals just a really good way of feeling safe. First video, and it has been very long, so if you're still here, thank you so much. This was a lot of information to digest, but it is still the tip of the iceberg of what it truly means to be autistic. And if you have found yourself relating to most things, if not all things, then please reach out to a professional. There is support there. There is still support available. You can do this. I believe in you. We all believe you. And you are never alone with this. There are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of autistic people on the planet. You are never on your own in anything. There is always going to be somebody out there to love and support you, including me. And if you like what you've seen and you want to stick around, then please subscribe, like this video, drop a thing in the comments. Any questions you have, I will reply as soon as I can. So to wrap up today's video, we have Flick. I love him. Sending you lots of love and internet hugs. You can follow me at Shalom Lavender on here, Instagram and Twitter. I look forward to hearing your feedback and what you have to say, and I especially look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you so much for spending your time to watch this video. I genuinely appreciate it. It's been wonderful having you, and yeah, see you soon. Bye.